It's a big one today. It's the 6-monthly close. It's the quarterly close. It's the monthly close. Huge things happening for Bitcoin at the end of this very significant period. And if you have been following on Twitter, you might have seen my recent post that I put up there looking at the quarterly closes. Never in the history of Bitcoin's bear markets have there been 2 green quarterly closes. We're on the verge of yet another massive Bitcoin bull market cycle. Let's dive into the details today after you hit that like and subscribe button, and you guys know where you're at. You're at the home of your macro cycle analysis, covering the stock markets, real estate cycles, Bitcoin, and of course, cryptocurrency. This is what we do full time for over a decade here. We're studying the past to forecast the future, just like what our members do, smashing up those trades, which I'll get more into later in the video, showing you how they make those great gains through cryptocurrency in some fantastic trends that we've been seeing. So this is where we sit now. End of the 6 months is coming up, June 30th. And for the Aussies, end of financial year, make sure you get those tax returns done and get some pretty good returns, of course.
Now, of course I am minimising my tax, and if anybody in this country doesn't minimise their tax, they want their heads rimmed. Because as a government, I can tell you're not spending it that well that we should be donating extra.
So 6-monthly close, this is the first time we are seeing a solid green monthly close above some key resistance levels. Now, we have seen a red 6-month after the first 6 months, but there has never been a 6-monthly close in Bitcoin within a bear market. Like what we saw in the previous cycle in 2019, we saw a big green monthly close, nice big green one. The next 6 months was red. Then we had the pandemic in the following 6 months, could not get below the previous cycle low on the worst news the world has ever seen, probably since GFC, probably further, depending on how you want to judge that. And the price couldn't get lower than that low. You really have to put that into perspective when you see how fearful that news was. Okay, that was all that could push the market down, but then at the end of that 6 months, it closed higher. Then we had another green and a green and a green. This is a great sign, especially to see this 6-monthly close in the green, because every other bull market for Bitcoin obviously has to start with a green point, and it just does not go back under the previous cycle's low from that point. All right, so moving down to the shorter term. It's not that short, but quarterlies. Now we've got the quarterly closes here. Green and potentially another green. Remember, we still have 20 hours to go. This thing could just absolutely collapse, and you know, this video would age like milk, but most of the videos, as you guys have seen, have been aging like a beautiful French or Italian red wine. The things have been going absolutely fantastically well with the analysis. All right, we're not always going to be right, but at the end of the day, so far, so very, very good. 2 green quarters. The market didn't go underneath that previous cycle low from that point. Sure, it had a pullback and a very significant pullback. And yes, this was the pandemic pullback. And then from that point, away we go. Previous cycle, green within the accumulation zone here. Remember, we are on the index, not on the individual exchanges price charts, okay? That's why this one is slightly lower than the previous one, but the end of the cycle was here in January. You have a green, you have a red, green, red, green, red. You guys can see that. We're not in primary school here. But then it just went on green after green after green. So we've had 2 now, or we're about to see our second one. Maybe we do see a red coming in the 3rd quarter. And that would potentially be expected, especially with our Bitcoin returns, which don't look so good in September. July often looks like a pretty good period. You can see only 3 times have been negative Julys, and the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months of Julys have been green. So pretty good odds there, 70%. Doesn't mean we can't get a red here, but July typically is a pretty good month. September is the month to look out for at that point, which could then sway that 3rd quarter of 2023 potentially into a flat or slightly red period as well. Going back to BTC, that's the quarterly there. So everything is lining up for further strength. All right, let's drop it down again to the monthly, potentially our highest close of 2023 yet again, and our highest monthly close in the last 13 months as well. So over a year now since it's had a close any higher than this. And on top of that, we can look at the previous cycles here as well. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4 green, 1 red, another green. You can pretty much see through these periods, you don't get 4 green months within a bear market and then put in a new low. So it's very, very unlikely we're going to see any lower prices. And you may have seen my tweets earlier as well. Probably not going to go under $20,000 in this cycle either. Speaking of tweets and data, let's have a look at this here. So this is the monthly and the 6 monthly close in less than 24 hours. So basically Bitcoin has to stay above 29,200 for this to occur, to be the third highest 6 monthly close. So let's jump back to the 6 monthly here. You can see this was a high 6 monthly close, and this one here. This is potentially the third highest, yet there is still fear around further downside. It's pretty incredible to think where we're currently at in the cycle and the type of market psychology or market sentiment that is still out there. We'd have the highest 1 month, as we just said, in 2023, and then the highest monthly close in 13 months. That would leave that, or mean that we're at 86% gain for 2023 and a 103% gain from the cycle low. If we take it to the current high price of about $31,400. Now, the other piece to the puzzle, to the macro puzzle here, remember, if the stock markets aren't also in a bull market, if there is still fear everywhere else in the market, or at least the trend is not up, if the trend is down in the S&P, in the NASDAQ, in the Dow Jones, then it's probably likely that Bitcoin is also going to be down. However, the trends have been up. I'm just here reading the language of the chart for you. That's all there is to it. Just reading the language of the chart. It's giving out its different characters and messages. Some read it in different ways. This is how I've been reading it. So far, so good over the last decade plus that I've been trading and investing in. So the next thing we're looking at, of course, is the stock markets. Are they up as well? Are we seeing similar signals? Are we seeing bullishness there in the chart, not in the economy? We know now that we don't trade the economy, we trade the charts, because any data point from the economy is telling us that things are bad. All you have to look to is the latest thing today. And if you watch this video in a week from now, you will know that the news narratives as of today won't mean jack shit in a week from now, maybe a month from now. The thing today that came out is Airbnb prices are down. That's going to collapse the markets. Maybe it does. Maybe it's down the track. The reason I bring that up is economy, news headlines, data like that doesn't mean anything when the chart is up. The chart is what we trade. The chart is where the money is, and that's how the money is made, because you see the price tick higher. So looking at the Dow Jones, 126 years of history. It's a very similar chart to the S&P and the NASDAQ. And basically in its entire history, how many times have there been 3 straight green quarters in a bear market? As I say here, you guessed it, 0. We're about to close on it. There's another 16, 15-ish hours to go until the 6 monthly close, the quarterly close, and of course the monthly close as well. And if we get this on the quarterly, 3 straight green quarters. How many times in history has it happened in a bear market? 0. But yes, there will still be some people that say this time is different. If you're hearing that, I would say it's probably likely those people do not look at charts. They focus on the economy. They focus on the noise. They focus on the negative because that's what they want to focus on, because they want to try and buy lower because they missed out on the lows, not understanding how to identify a low. Unfortunately for them, I think they're going to miss out yet again. The data just doesn't lie. Let's have a look at the chart here. You've got 1, 2, 3 green quarters. The previous quarter, it was only just green, 0.38%. So maybe we can give them some slack there and say, well, that wasn't exactly a green quarter for whatever reason. I mean, that's okay too. It's only 0.38. But this time here, we're at 2.55. So we've got 16 hours to go. That might mean that, yeah, we do close a little bit lower. We would have to close below the open, which is at 33,245. We're 1,200-ish points higher than that. So it'd have to be a pretty significant down day for this to close in the red. But we look back, here is the pandemic. There's your bear market, 1, 2, 3 green, and it was already in new all-time highs. Here's your GFC, 1, 2, 3 green, and it was well on its way to a new all-time high and a mega bull market, one of the biggest bull markets that we've ever seen. Go back to the .com collapse here. 1, 2, 3 green, moving on to a new all-time high. We go back to the Black Monday. That was a 1987 crash. It was like 50% in a day. 1, 2, 3 green, get to a new all-time high, and then away you go in the 90s and into the early 2000s. We go back to the 1929 collapse. 1, 2, 3, 4 greens, and the market does not go below the previous cycle low. That was a long period before we've reached a new all-time high, but of course you guys can understand that that was the Second World War after the Great Depression. You know, some pretty terrible things around the world, yet the market did not go lower of the previous cycle low. So if you want to look at this time is different and maybe we do go back past the lows, you know, I'll leave that with whoever wants to do that. S&P looks very, very similar in the chart, as you can see here. 3, probably going to close in the green. Again, 3 back here. That was in the lead up into the GFC peak. So the peak before the GFC, of course. 1, 2, 3 green, collapse, 1, 2, 3 green, way to the biggest bull market in the world, as the world has ever seen. The pandemic collapse, 1, 2, 3 green, new bull market. We can go back into 1987, same sort of thing again, new move to the upside. And all of these were higher lows. We have 1, 2, 3 green. This was in the 60s, the very difficult times there. And we had a lower low to that point. However, that was a new all-time high again. There's your bear market. 1, 2, 3 green, new all-time high again. 1, 2, 3 green, new all-time high again. You get the picture. I don't need to keep going through this over and over and over again because the data just doesn't lie. It just basically gets a little more boring. Boring it should be. It should be boring if you're going to be making money. The hype and the excitement, you know, that's for the noobs. They need that excitement in their life because, I mean, there's money on the line, and typically if you put money into sports gambling, you got some excitement. You put money into gambling in the casino, you've got some excitement. In the market, you do that, you get wrecked, you lose all your money. That's why I like to make it a little bit more boring and mundane. That's the whole idea. All right, so the NASDAQ, slightly different here. It only has 2 green quarters, but let's have a look at the bear markets. There's never had 2 green quarters in the dot-com collapse. There was no 2 green quarters in the collapse of the GFC. We did have 2 green quarters coming out of it. We did have 2 green quarters coming out of it as well. So if this was part of a bigger bear market, what I'm saying here is there haven't been 2 green quarters and then the market's collapsed from that point. You know, it just didn't happen here. You had 1 quarter collapse, 1 quarter collapse. Take it all the way back to the 1980s. 1 red quarter, market moves on to new highs, same sort of deal. It just has not happened. It can happen. I doubt it's going to happen this time though. There's some pretty damning evidence around macro plays here for Bitcoin and the stock markets, looking at the macro cycles. Now I focus a lot on that because this gives you the confidence of the trend. It gives you the understanding of what direction the market is in and which way the easiest gains are going to be had. Doesn't necessarily have to be today or tomorrow or next week, but the easiest gains are going to be coming from the long side for these markets because they're in a macro uptrend. It's not to say that there can't be profits made in the shorts, just like some of our members are doing here. And if you want to understand this a little more, get into that macro cycle analysis, macro investing, short-term trading as well, so you can pull some of those gains and put it into a longer-term portfolio. Check out the link in top of the video description here. Trade and invest Bitcoin, crypto, and real estate like we do at TI8 Premium. As I said, that's the membership there, link in the top of the video description. So our members done extremely well, and some people said, well, you never show the losses. It's just up to the individuals and what they want to show. And in this case, here's one of your losses here, 18%, made up for it again here, 78, 139%, 75, 21, and Justy Mussy doing some great returns here for their trading. So for the short-term BTC, we're at 30,700. Remember the levels that we're looking for here. We want to look to see if Bitcoin can close above 29,200 because that cements those 6 monthlies and the 3 monthly returns. Those basically the data that we're looking for here. For the short term, it seems like we'll most likely do that. We've got 20 hours to go. And as a recap for some of the big news fundamental headlines, all of these have been nothing burgers, which essentially cements the case that we're in a wall of worry, which is basically a bull market signal. You can see all of the fearful events posting them on a chart here makes it so visually appealing because you can just see how far the market has come from that news. Silvergate collapse, who even remembers that? SVB collapse. We had through this period as well Deutsche Bank and Credit Suisse and all these other banks collapsing, and look how far the market's come. It's touching new highs. This is for BTC. Same deal with the stock markets as well. So it doesn't matter whatever narrative is moved between, well, Bitcoin was supposed to go up because the banks are collapsing and everyone's moving their money out of the system into Bitcoin. It's absolute freaking garbage, and that narrative will probably become more prevalent towards the top of the market to sucker the idiots in and keep them in their positions. It's what happens at every single top. Remember, we had the super cycle theory at the previous bull market tops, which kept a lot of people in, that this thing was just not going to collapse. And the previous cycle to that, I remember, was, well, Tether's screwed and Bitcoin's going to go to 50 grand and you got to keep it here, otherwise your money's going to go to zero anyway, being in a stable coin. That was absolute BS again. We'll have some sort of BS narrative at the peak of the next cycle as well. So I'm not a perma bull, just got to be open to both directions and just look at what the macro is doing. We've overcome the regional banks collapsing. Oh, who even remembers FRC? I don't even remember, what was that bank? Let me know in the comment section. But it even overcame that. The regional banks, debt ceiling, First Republic Bank of America or something like that. SEC, altcoin bloodbath, Bitcoin's at here. Now I play it off because that's what it is. It's just stupid news headlines to fear the majority out of getting in on each of the very, very significant dips. And I suspect it's happening yet again based on the macro cycle that we've been covering here, and some of these really simple charts that you can do yourself to get that confidence in the market right here in front of you. Look at the data for what it is. There has not been a close below the previous cycle low after we've put in such a mega 6-month period, a mega 3-monthly period, a quarterly period, or 2 periods in a row. Same deal for the monthly here, about to close at new fresh highs as well. Hit that like and subscribe. I'll see you back here tomorrow for the weekly wrap up of the stock markets, Bitcoin and crypto. Have a great weekend. If you're not able to make it, I'll see you on Twitter otherwise. And until then, have more fun to get more done. Peace out, guys.